Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join me, whether you're watching us live or watching the recording. I really appreciate you taking about an hour of your time to listen in and to learn as many tips and tricks as you can on MS-specific balance. For those of you that don't know me well or at all, I'm Dr. Gretchen Hawley. I'm a physical therapist and a multiple sclerosis certified specialist. And I just feel so passionate about helping people with MS because there's so many tangible things that you can do at home right now to help with your balance, your strength, your fatigue. And I will never forget the very first time that I went to my support group where I was a presenter. I shared a bunch of information and people were just, their minds were blown because they learned so much. And to me, it seemed like relatively simple pieces of advice. And that was the first time where I realized, oh my gosh, people with MS aren't learning these tips and tricks from their neurologist or their physical therapist or any of their other people that are on their healthcare team. And I just fell in love with being that person to give you these tips and tricks and exercises that can help you achieve your best life with multiple sclerosis. So my goal for our session today is to share with you those tangible things to help you with balance. So do make sure you have a piece of paper and a pen so that you can take notes. And my ultimate goal is that you can take the notes that you grab from our session tonight and you can bring them to someone that you're working with, whether it's a physical therapist or a personal trainer or someone else. And you can say, hey, this is what I learned, let's incorporate these. Or if you decide to work with me, which we can talk a little bit more about at the end, you will have these notes that you can utilize moving forward. So I hope you're excited as I am, and we're going to also be doing some exercises. So just make sure you have a little bit of space around you. Now, today's class is focused on balance, meaning I want you all to listen to your body and what you can do for safety reasons. Make sure you're staying safe. Make sure you have something around to hold on to. I don't want anyone feeling like they are off balance or a little bit tippy during the exercises. If you have any questions throughout, please don't hesitate to post in the chat and we will get to them. All right, so let's get started. Here we go. So as you guys know, you have registered for the MS-specific balance class. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Our objectives, we're going to be talking about the different components of balance, regular balance versus MS-specific balance, balance exercises, and as I mentioned before, I'm going to be demonstrating and you can practice them with me if you feel comfortable. And then finally, MS-specific exercise routines, because it's going to be important that you not only learn about balance, but you actually incorporate it into what you're doing. And so that's my ultimate goal by the end, is you'll be able to figure out how this can fit into your exercise routine. And at the very end, I will also share with you a way that we can work closer together if you feel like you do need more guidance into creating this routine and making sure that you have confidence in the program that you're doing to help you balance better and walk better and reduce fatigue. And we'll be doing a question and answer throughout. So as I mentioned, if you guys have questions, don't hesitate to ask. What I would love to see right now, I'm going to pull up the chat on my end just so I can see what you guys are all saying. And I want you to answer this question. What would better balance mean for you? And I'm not going to stay here for too long, but about 30 seconds or so. And I want you to just think, what would better balance mean for you? What types of things would you be able to do? Or is it a feeling? Would it give you more confidence? Or I see someone said safety. Polly says not falling, feeling more confident, be able to walk further, more stable, less fear, less being scared. Awesome. Being more comfortable, independence, balance, walking, security, standing on one leg, be able to do yoga, not being afraid. Okay, so these are amazing things. And I want you guys to think about these emotions and these things that you're typing as we're going through the presentation. So yes, this is an educational presentation and I'll be doing some demonstrations, but try to remember why this is all so important. If you can improve your balance, you can feel more confident, you can feel more independent, more safe, and you can do the things that you want to do without that fear of falling over or of tripping. And that's just so powerful, being able to have those emotions instead of the negative ones. So thank you guys for responding. Oh, and someone said less tired. Yes, fatigue is a big thing, and having improved balance can 100% help with fatigue. I'm just going to move my slide down. Okay, so moving on, balance can help with a ton of different things. Honestly, this list that I put here is just a very small list. It's the first things that came to my mind. And I think it's important to know that you might be feeling like you might be looking at this list and be thinking, well, I've done balance exercises before and they didn't help me. So I don't know if this is going to help either. Or I don't know what balance exercises to do, or I don't have the time to do balance exercises. You know, there might be many thoughts popping in your mind right now of why you might not be able to accomplish reduced tripping, reduced falls, being more stable, standing for longer periods of time, lessening fatigue, using a mobility aid less, improving functional activities. And I just want to remind you guys that you absolutely can. I can't tell you how many of my Missing Link members report to me almost on a daily basis that their balance and strength and mobility is improving. And I know that if you use these strategies that we talk about today, you will be able to notice a difference. All right, so before we get into the specifics of what these balance exercises are, I just want to address a question that I get asked a lot. That question is, well, how do I know if my balance is getting better, or is it getting worse, or is it just staying the same? How am I supposed to tell? So this is my answer. If you are in a physical therapy clinic, then you will be working on a few of these different things. So number one is the Berg balance test. This is a test that your physical therapist will do with you that looks at a bunch of different things for balance and mobility. Another one is the dynamic gait index, the functional gait assessment, and standing in various positions. So all of these different tests have scores, and it will essentially tell you based on your score how you do on day 1 versus day 30 or day 60. And one thing that I want to point out here is that, as I'm sure everyone on this call knows, every day with MS can be different. And so you might have a great score one day, but then the next time that you do it, it's not great. And it might have nothing to do with how much balance you've gained or strength you've gained. It was just a bad day for you. So I think it's really important that when you do these tests, you're open with your physical therapist and you try to do them on the days where you feel about the same. And lastly, on this slide, I wrote in clinic versus at home. So these are the tests that are mostly done in the clinic. And we'll get into positions a little bit later. But you can also do these at home. If you guys are taking notes, write down these three, the Berg, Dynamic Gait Index, and Functional Gait Assessment. You can find those online. And if you want, if you can safely do them, you can do them at home. Now, obviously, that's not going to be as standardized because there's a lot of differences in your home versus in a PT clinic, but as long as you do it in your home the same way each time, that can be a valuable way for you to know if your balance and mobility is improving, staying the same, or regressing. And another way that's much easier, but alternate way to see if your balance is changing at all is by standing in a specific position and just time yourself. How long can you stay in that position with good form, without swaying too much, and write that number down and then see if that number changes. So the different components of balance, where I'm going to get into one slide for each of these. So balance strategies, balance positions, and core strength for balance. And I also just want to point out, obviously you guys know this, but the presentation tonight is on balance. So that's what we're focusing on. But there is so much other things that go into balance and mobility. we need to have the appropriate strength and endurance and flexibility in all of our leg muscles, our hips, our knees, our ankles. Our core needs strength and endurance and flexibility. So that's one component we're not going to be talking about tonight, just because there's not enough time to go over all of this. Additionally, having arm swing is a huge component of having good balance. Coordination is required for good balance. So I just wanted you guys to know that the webinar tonight is not all-inclusive balance, because there's simply not enough time. It would probably take a 5-hour webinar to go over all of them. And all of those, if anyone is interested in the missing link, my online program, all of these are outlined in there. But for tonight, we're going to be focusing on what is in the upper half of this slide. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a second here, just so you can see me a little bit bigger on your screen. And we're going to go over the different strategies. So I call this the wobble. And the reason I call this the wobble is because it's when your body literally wobbles, and it's actually a good thing. So there's the ankle strategy, the hip strategy, and the stepping strategy. So I am going to stop sharing for right now, and I'm going to demonstrate these things for you. Okay. All right, so let's see if this works. If you can see my full body. Oh, my head's cut off a little bit higher up. All right, so what the ankle strategy is when you're standing, and it can be in any position. It can be standing like this. It could be standing in a staggered stance, standing on one leg, any position, feet close, tandem stance, one foot in front of the other. The first thing that should happen when you start to feel like you're losing your balance is your ankles should wobble a little bit. So I don't know if you can tell from this far away, but I'm exaggerating. So let's say I'm standing with my feet together and I feel unstable. My ankles should wobble. Now, I see something often in the clinic where I'll be looking at my client and I can tell they're off balance, but instead of having any ankle wobble, there's nothing. Instead, they're doing something like this. So an ankle wobble or the ankle strategy is a very good thing. And a lot of people with MS don't have it, meaning your body won't be able to help correct your balance. If you get shoved off balance this way, you can't wobble your way back to center. You might just have to take a step. So when we are off balance in any situation, the very first thing that happens is our ankle wobble. So our ankle should wobble. Now, if that's not enough to correct our balance, the second thing that happens is the hip strategy. So basically my ankles wobble. Okay, I'm not balanced enough. I'm still feeling off center. Now my hips are going to go like this. So again, this is a normal thing that should happen. If you feel off balance, your hips should go in one way or another to try to correct it. Now, if that's still not enough, you're still feeling off balance, then we step. And that's called the stepping strategy. So I think it's really important to point all these things out, because if you don't have the ankle strategy or the hip strategy, and you just automatically go to the stepping strategy, well, if you don't have enough strength in your legs or enough balance, or maybe you can't get your toes up quick enough, then you're going to end up rolling and falling. And so one way that you can work on improving your ankle strategy and your hip strategy and your stepping strategy is with the exercises we're going to do in just a couple of slides from now. So I think that's just an important thing to remember. Wobble is okay. Wobble is encouraged. And oftentimes when the wobble isn't there, that's actually one thing causing you to trip or fall or feel off balance in some way and not be able to correct your balance. Okay, so this is another question that I want you guys to answer in the chat. This is a very important question. It might not seem that important to you right now, but I promise it's very important, and this will come back later in our presentation tonight. So the question is, what position or positions, you can say more than one, are you in when you lose your balance? So this could be anything from something when you're moving or something when you're standing? I'm just going to open my chat so I can see what you guys are saying. All right, so we're seeing standing, walking. Amy says dynamic, walking upright. So lots of people saying walking, stepping, turning around. Turning around is a good one. Moving, going around a corner. And so if you guys can get even specific, even more specific, when you're moving, does that mean when you're walking forward or backwards or turning around? Or is it when you're standing in place, but you're reaching for something? Maybe if you're reaching into your closet or reaching up to grab something from a counter or reaching forward to grab someone's hand, to shake their hand. When are the very specific, try to get as specific as possible, and you'll know why in a few seconds. Changing position, standing up, that's a good one. Standing up, a lot of people are saying standing. Sidestepping, bending over, amazing, that's a good one. Obviously not good that you don't have balance there, but that's a good one for what we can work on. Turning around, awesome. Okay, you guys are doing great with these. Okay, so you can keep letting me know in the chat and I'll go back and look through those. But static balance is when you're standing in one position. So some people will feel unsteady and they'll lose their balance, or at least feel like you're going to lose your balance when you're just in one place. And oftentimes this is standing, but it can also be sitting. Whereas dynamic is when you're moving. And so that's anything that I explained before, the walking, the turning around, reaching for something. So the core is the last of the components that we'll talk about for balance, and then we'll get into the exercises. I cannot express to you how important it is to have core strength. If you don't have, not you specifically, I don't mean to pinpoint any one person, if we as humans don't have a strong core, it's almost impossible to have strength and balance while we're walking and moving, or even just standing in one place. And what I mean by a core is the front of our body, the back of our body, the sides of our body, and our hips. So our torso, every muscle in our torso, front, back, and sides, and our hips are part of our core. If there's weakness there, well, then your balance is also going to be affected. So balance and core strengthening go hand in hand. I actually have a program called the Total Core Program, and it's just core exercises because it's that important. Core is necessary. A weak core can lead to poor posture, back pain, and instability while walking, while a strong core will lead to improved posture, improved transfers, improved gait, improved endurance, improved balance. Everything works better when we have a stronger core. So I think it's really important for us to know that. And not only that, 2 of the exercises we'll do later are core exercises in a seated position. All right, so regular versus MS specific balancing. And I have a question for you guys on this slide as well. Have you ever felt like you're getting stronger, but you're not walking any better? Or you're getting better balance, but it hasn't affected your walking? Or you're improving something, your balance, your flexibility, your strength, you're improving something, but your function, your day-to-day activities is not also improving. Okay, I see a bunch of people saying yes. The reason for that, 99% of the time, is because you're doing regular exercises, whether it's regular strengthening, regular balance exercises, regular walking exercises. You're doing regular exercises that you might get from an orthopedic physical therapist or a personal trainer, and that's not MS specific. MS specific exercises, and my missing link members who are on can attest to this, MS specific exercises are completely different, and the difference is that they are functional, that you will not only notice an improved strength, but also improved walking or improved function, whether that's getting into and out of a car, getting into and out of bed, easier mobility throughout your day, getting off of the toilet seat easier, getting off your couch or sitting on your couch without plopping. These functions, these day-to-day movements can improve if your exercises are MS specific. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And all of these exercises I'm going to give you tonight are MS specific, because what would be the point otherwise? So MS specific is functional balance. And functional balance means that it's based on your goal. So do you remember when I just asked you guys a couple minutes ago, what would improve if your balance was better? What would that mean for you? And also, what positions do you lose your balance in? So whatever your answer was to that, those positions, those things, that is where you need to practice your balance exercises. What I would consider a regular balance exercise might be something like you're standing and they have you standing on a blue foam pad, which is a very typical physical therapy exercise. Or, maybe you passed that, so you're standing and now they want you to close your eyes. Or you're standing and they want you to turn your head. Or you're standing, they toss you a ball. And all of those are good exercises. I'm not saying that they're bad, but they're not functional and they shouldn't be done first. Those are things that you can do maybe later and down the road, but you first have to focus on the specific goals that you have and the positions that those are in. So I'm just going to scroll up and take one of your guys' examples. Okay, so someone said step ups, and this is actually a very common one. So going up or downstairs. Well, if going up or downstairs is one of the places that you notice wobbliness or instability, whatever that means for you, well, then in a safe way, you need to practice balance exercises on the stairs. And maybe it's not on an actual stair, maybe it's on an aerobic step just to get you prepping for the actual stairs, but that's going to be the most functional for you. Or someone else said, let me just scroll up a bit here. Someone said walking the dog. Someone says foot drop. Yes, that's very common. Someone said when they're leaning forward. And I remember I had a client who said that he would lose his balance almost every time he bent down on his bookshelf to grab a book. And so it's important to practice balancing while he's bending down. If you don't practice balance while you're bending down, you might have improved balance, but you're still going to fall over when you bend down to get that book. So functional balance is balance exercises based on your goals. So what positions do you need to balance in to perform that activity? I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. I had a feeling that a lot of you were going to say that walking is something that makes you feel off balance. So I'm just going to explain what walking entails and how you need balance for walking. And then we're going to go into these exercises. So we have a few standing exercises for walking, but we also have a few sitting exercises. And I'll go back to those so that you guys can write them down. But for now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to demonstrate these exercises for you. Or sorry, not the exercises, walking. So when you're walking, lots of things need to happen. So I want you guys to watch this leg. So just move this a little bit that way. All right, so you're watching this leg. So when I walk forward, I'm going to go very slow and I am going to really exaggerate my movement. So don't feel like you should look the way I look. You'll see what I mean, but I'm really exaggerating. In order for me to walk forward in this direction, I very first need to shift my weight forward. Then I need to bend my knee. Then swoop my toes up so I don't have a foot drop. Then bring my knee up. Then straighten my knee, put my heel down, and all while that was happening, all while this leg was doing that, I was standing on one leg. So there's 7 things that we need to do to improve walking. And again, tonight we're focusing on balance. There's lots of exercises for all those things, all those 7 things. But the balance that you need to walk, number 1, we started in a staggered stance. So you need to be able to balance in a staggered stance on both sides, with the right foot forward and with the left foot forward. Another position that you need to balance in is single leg stance. And don't get me wrong, you absolutely can use a mobility aid, a cane, trekking poles, a walker, a rollator, but you still need to be able to balance on one leg with that device. Just because you have that device doesn't mean you don't need to balance on one leg. It should just make it a little bit more easier and a little bit doable, more doable for you. So those staggered stance on each side and single leg. And that's just the balance piece. We're not getting into the strengthening tonight. Again, those are in the missing link for anyone who's a member or wants to learn more about that. But we're going to get into the exercises for that. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen again so you can look at what the exercises are that we're going to do, and then we're going to try them out. So let me get back into it. Okay, so if you guys are taking notes, go ahead and write these down, and I will demonstrate them, and if you want, you can do them with me or just watch for now. But we're going to do static standing, meaning just standing in one place, not moving. And there's 3 positions: feet apart, staggered stance, and single leg. And then there's weight shifting. So this is more dynamic balance. And we're going to go forward and backwards. And these slides will be posted too. So if you didn't finish writing them down, that's okay, you'll get them again. Functional balance is going to be the 3rd one. And then I'm going to go to the next slide. So we're going to do some seated balance as well. Static seated as well as dynamic. So static supported as well as static unsupported. And then dynamic, which is going to be our core strengthening ones as well. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that for a minute. Again, you will get that back. Don't feel like that was your only time. And also, I know we're going somewhat quickly through all of this because there's a lot to cover. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to type them, and I'll answer them when we're at the 15-minute left mark for the presentation. So let's start with the standing exercises. And again, I am not going to use a surface, I can't think of the word, like a chair or a countertop here, because I want you to see what I'm doing. But I would absolutely want anyone doing these exercises to hold on to something sturdy, something that will not move if you feel unsteady. That can be a heavy chair, it can be a countertop, a heavy table that won't move. So I will demonstrate with that one, but I would appreciate it if you guys can use something. All right, we'll see if that works. So the first one is static standing. So we're just going to stand in place without moving. So one position is just with your feet apart. Feet are shoulder distance apart. And that's all you do. Knees should be slightly bent. So I'll show you from the side. They're not locked and they're not down here. They're just slightly bent. And this is going to be very challenging for those of you that have knees that want to hyperextend or buckle and give way. So stand, and ideally you're holding on to something, and slightly bend your knees. And how long can you hold this position while being upright? So your hips aren't back, you're not rounding, you're in a good posture, a good form, which requires core strength. So tighten those core muscles, and you just stay here. Having strength and endurance to just stand like this is very important. We stand a good amount throughout the day. Anytime you transfer, when you stand up from the couch, from the car, from the bed, from the toilet, you have to be stable when you're standing. If you're not, that's when you might tip over. So one position is just feet apart. The next position is staggered. So I'm going to show you from this side, or I guess I'll show you from the front first. One foot is forward, one foot is back, but you're still staggered. Please do not confuse this with tandem. This is not one foot in front of the other. Your feet are still in line with your shoulders. And again, slightly bend those knees, and you're just staying here. If you remember, when you're walking, staggered stance position is one of the positions you need balance in. So you just stay here for as long as you can. And just so you guys know, according to the textbooks, normal, that's what I'm looking for. Normal standing is 20 seconds. Now, in my opinion, no one ever needs 20 seconds while they're walking. You're never walking and then you stop for 20 seconds and you walk, you stop for 20 seconds. But 20 seconds is considered normal. So if you're in the PT clinic and you get to 20 seconds, they'll stop you and say, okay, well, let's go on to the next one. So we're doing staggered stance on both sides. The knees are slightly bent. So that's going to be really important. The last one for static standing is single leg. So again, as we were walking forward, we needed to balance on one leg. So again, ideally you'll have something around, stand on one leg. Now for some people, The hardest part of standing on one leg is getting this leg off the ground. So as you can see, I'm bending it right now to get it off the ground. If that's too hard for you, you can just keep the leg straight, but have it out to this side or out in front of you. Whatever you got to do to get this foot off the ground. If all those options are too hard, you can stand on a thick book or something that will raise this leg up off the ground so that can just dangle down and not be touching. So single leg balance with the knees slightly bent. Those are the static positions that we need. Now moving on to the dynamic positions. Again, one is in the staggered stance, and then we're going to shift our weight. So I call this weight shifting. So you're going to shift your weight forward and then shift your weight back and shift your weight forward. The core muscles are nice and tight. Squeeze your butt muscles if you need to, and back. So doing this exercise will prepare you for walking forward as well as taking a step backwards, which is important. If you don't practice shifting your weight back, well then if you ever need to take a step backwards, like to back up closer to the toilet, to back up closer to a chair or a couch, or to get out of the way for someone that's walking in front of you, well then your brain is going to freak out because it's not used to being in that position. So practicing shifting your weight forward and shifting your weight backwards in this staggered stance. So that's another one. And then the other dynamic one was side to side. So you're just standing with your feet at least shoulder distance apart, if not a little bit wider, and you're going to shift your weight over this way and then over this way. And these might seem simple, but they should be. These are the movements that we do on a daily basis, many, many, many times a day. So you're shifting your weight from one side to the other. And notice I'm not tipping like this. I'm not tipping at all. I'm staying the same height. I'm just coming over here and then over this way. That's very different than this. So you're trying to get as much weight over on this side. Maybe it's 90% of your body weight on this side with the knees slightly bent. If that feels too scary, then maybe it's only 70% or 60%. And then over here. And you likely have one leg that's more unstable than the other. That doesn't necessarily mean it's your weaker leg. Some people have a stronger leg, and that stronger leg is the worst balanced leg. But you're just trying to shift your weight from one side and then to the other, just however much you can. So we start at 50-50, maybe it's 60 each side, so not much. So listen to your body. So those are the standing exercises. The functional exercise that I mentioned is completely specific to what you guys said your goal was. So if you have difficulty balancing while you're bending down to get a book, I'll just stick with that example, then what you would want to do, shouldn't have sat down so quick, what you would want to do, actually this is perfect, I have a bookshelf right here. So if I typically fall over when I go to grab that book, I would want to practice having my feet shoulder distance apart and shift my weight back and then up and then back. Because in order for me to bend down, I need to be able to shift my butt back and my shoulders forward. If this causes me to feel unstable, well then I shouldn't even attempt to pick that book up yet. I gotta practice balancing here and then up. Once you're good at that, then you have to balance while your knees bend further. So if you start bending your knees, and as soon as you start, that's when you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know about this. Well then, again, don't pick the book up yet. Practice your shifting here, and then a mini bend, and then up. And you're just seeing, okay, can I stay stable here? I'll show you from the front too. So you're hinged back. Can you balance here? If not, maybe move your feet a little bit wider. Can you balance here? The wider, the easier it is generally. And up. And then eventually you would have your balance where you're balanced here, you're balanced here, and now I can grab that book and step up, stand up without that fear of falling over or being unstable because we've practiced it in a functional way. If you only practice the static standing with your feet apart and static staggered stance, and even if you practice the dynamic staggered stance or dynamic side to side with the weight shifting, you bending down to pick up a book might not be any better. That's a perfect example where even though you're doing an MS specific exercise, your balance will improve with walking, but not with picking up the book because you didn't do a functional balance exercise for that. The seated examples that I want to share with you. Oh, and so I just saw a question in the chat that I want to answer because I feel like a lot of people will have this question. So someone asked, how many times do we do the weight shifting from side to side? My best answer is that it's going to depend on you and the quality. Quality is way more important than quantity. If you can do 10 times each side with good quality, I consider that great. And maybe 3 rounds, so 30 times total. But if you can't do that with good quality, if you can only do 6 with good quality and then you start tipping, well, then stop at 5. Quality is everything. Okay, the seated balance exercises are also the core exercises. I'm going to demonstrate them in my wheeled chair right now. Please never, ever do seated balance exercises in a wheeled chair. It's just what I have here in this room. And that's what's going to be easiest to demonstrate. So seated exercises, one is sitting unsupported. So you're just sitting in the middle of your chair without anything touching you. And you're keeping this good posture. You're not hinged too far forward. You're not leaning back. You're just up tall. You're squeezing your core muscles nice and tight. And similar to standing, how long can you stay here? This might be very challenging for you, or maybe it's on the easier side or anywhere in between, but how long can you stay here for? The longer you can stay here, the better core stability and balance you'll have. So this is sitting unsupported. Sitting supported is when you are supported by the back of the chair, but it's still good quality. So it's not sitting here and slouching. You're still tightening your core. You're still sitting up tall. You're not leaning over to one side or the other. You're just tightening your abs and just trying to stay here. So these are the static, my favorite static balance exercises in a seated position. And then the 2 dynamic ones, one was a lean back. This is one of my favorites. It's great for the core. You're sitting towards the edge and you're just going to hinge backwards and then pull yourself back up and then hinge back. And you're only going back as far as you can to feel it here, but not plop. If you plop, you went too far. And we're all a little bit different. Some of you might only be able to go here. Others might be able to go way further than I can. But just bend back, feel the core muscles tighten, your back is staying flat, and then come back up. And the last dynamic one is reaching. So you're sitting unsupported, you're not touching the back of the chair, your core muscles are tight, and you're reaching in various positions. So maybe I want to reach this way. As far as you can, reach, and then slowly come back. And then I want to go this way. Or maybe it's right in front of me, reach, and then back. You're working your core muscles on the front, the side, the back, and stability more than anything. So there's strengthening and stability. And you can go in any direction because we need to be able to shift our body weight. And if our upper body doesn't have the strength and balance we need, well, then how do you ever anticipate that you'll be able to balance well when you're walking and moving forward? It doesn't work that way. Okay. So we are just about the 15-minute mark. I just have 2 more things that I want to share with you, and then we'll open it up to the Q&A. Okay. Oh, and I forgot, I wanted to share this real life example. So I had a missing link member, Jenna, who I thought would be a perfect example to share with you guys because she is one who is a member of the missing link and therefore doing these MS specific strengthening and balance exercises. So Jenna specifically has dystonia in both of her feet and it causes pain and cramping and it's very intense, especially the closer she gets to her next Botox treatment. So she gets Botox in her feet to help with the dystonia and it reduces the pain, the cramping. But that week before her appointment to get that treatment is the worst week for her, the most pain, the most cramping, the most imbalance as well. And so typically she had told me that she would need to use her cane every day. Normally, she doesn't use a cane just when needed, but she would have to use a cane every single day during that final week up until her treatment. And once she started doing the missing link exercises, she only has to use it one day. So it's still painful, it's still cramping, but her balance has improved so much where she doesn't need to use her cane all but one day. So your balance can improve in many ways. In Jenna's case, in this way, where when she used to have to use it more frequently, she now doesn't have to. And she had also reported that her balance had improved tremendously. Additionally, these are some other missing link members' quotes that they gave me as well. So one of them was using a scooter, and she was actually able to transition to using a rollator. Now she still uses a scooter when she's fatigued or when it's really humid outside, but for the most part, she's now able to use a rollator most of the time, and therefore she's more mobile, she's more independent, and can do more things throughout the day on her own. Another missing link member had said she has fewer near falls. She used to have several every day. And the last that we kept in touch, which was just about a week and a half ago, she had said that she only has 2 or less a month. And she used to have these near falls, which is any time where you're walking and you almost fell, but you didn't. You caught yourself on the wall or a chair or a countertop or something. You caught yourself, so you didn't fall. She used to have those near falls daily. And so she cut down on those drastically from these exercises. And then the last one, and this is a very common one, was reaching into the closet or reaching up from the kitchen cabinet and they lose their balance. And she was able to not lose her balance, stay stable during those movements, which was hugely important. So, how to exercise effectively. So, now you know a bunch of MS specific balance exercises. And now it's important that you incorporate them into your routine. As we mentioned, there's other things that you can incorporate too, but research shows that doing your exercises throughout the day is just as effective as doing it all at once. Additionally, doing them in variable environments. So, don't just do them in your space that you exercise in. Do them in the kitchen, do them in the bedroom, do them in the bathroom. The more environments you do it in, the more likely your brain will associate that better balance you're gaining in many different situations versus just one situation. And lastly, doing them in a random order versus the same order. So don't always practice staggered stance balance first, or the side to side weight shifting last. Change up the order. These have been proven in research to be best strategies to help your exercises be more effective. And then this is our last slide for creating an exercise routine. So this is really, really important. So these are the things that I go through with my clients. So number one, prioritize your goals. And you guys mentioned a bunch of really great ones on here already. So prioritize. What's one goal? If you had to pick one, what is it? So once you know what that is, okay, now you've got a priority. Now you've got a goal that you're working on. Then number two, pick how many days a week do you want to exercise? And this is going to be different for everyone. And there's no right or wrong answer. I will say that research says that about 5 to 6 days a week is best, or 150 minutes spread throughout the week. But pick how many days you want to exercise, then pick the number of exercises. And I honestly always let my clients tell me how many they want to do. Because if I give you 10 exercises and that's so overwhelming for you that you're just not going to do them at all, well, then they won't be helpful because you're not doing them. So instead of giving you 10, I'll say, okay, Linda, how many exercises realistically do you think you're likely to do? And she might tell me 2 or 3. Great. Then we'll pick 2 or 3. Or if someone else tells me 5, great. Whatever works for you. And then we'll build from there. We'll get up to doing maybe 6 exercises in a day, but it doesn't have to be right away. And then lastly, picking the same program daily or a different program. This is different for everyone. Some people have a preference of every time they exercise, they want to do this same program. It just is easier for them. Whereas other people feel like they'd get bored and they want to switch it up. So pick, do you want to do the same program daily or switch it up a bit? And again, the main components of your exercise routine should be balance, core strengthening, strengthening in general, your legs, your upper body, flexibility, so stretching, and walking. And there's other things too, but these are the main components. So as I mentioned earlier, if you feel like you need more guidance, if you feel like, well, these are great, I love these exercises, but I don't know how to fit them into my program or how to fit them into my day. Well, you feel like you might not know what to do, or you might need modifications or advancements. Maybe you feel like you don't have enough energy for exercise, or you don't have enough time for exercise, or you don't have enough accountability or support to help you actually do them, and you feel like you need more guidance. That is the main reason that I started my online MS wellness program, The Missing Link. So as most of you guys may or may not know, The Missing Link is a program that I started because I was noticing that my clients who had MS, in-person clients, weren't able to get to me frequently. They were no-showing their appointments. They were canceling their appointments because they couldn't get to me. They had such a high fatigue day that they could not get to the clinic, or transportation wasn't there, or the weather was bad. And when you have these things where you can't get to PT, well, then you don't get stronger and you don't work towards your goals. So I created this online program that essentially is access to me as your physical therapist, but it's all online and recorded. So there's tons of home exercise. They are all in your living room or in your kitchen, and you can do them wherever it fits you in your house. But they're focused on people who are looking for MS specific and neuroplasticity based exercises for strengthening your body, for stretching and getting more flexible, for balancing. A lot of these ones are in there in addition to others, and also for walking. And more than that, there's a home exercise program. You guys can let me know in the chat if you're the same way as me, but I'm the type of person where if I'm given all of these amazing exercises that are perfect for me reaching my goals, but nothing telling me what to do each day, I'm going to be very overwhelmed and I'm probably not going to do anything at all. I'm the type of person that needs to be told exactly what to do each day. So there's a few different home exercise programs in The Missing Link that literally tell you exactly what exercises to do each day to help you reach your goals of improving walking, improving balance, mobility, strength. There's also task-specific exercises. So a perfect example is what I demonstrated earlier, where I was bending down to grab something and then stand up without losing balance. So that would be a great example of something that is in The Missing Link. Climbing stairs is one that we talk about in The Missing, and I demonstrate how to do that and what exercises are best to improve that function. Walking is obviously a big one that's in there. Getting into and out of your car, I demonstrate how to do that. Getting into and out of bed. So these daily activities that we have to do, I demonstrate how to do them. And in all of the exercise videos, I'm not just demonstrating, but explaining how to do them, where you should be feeling them if you're doing them correctly versus incorrectly, why they're important in the first place. Then we also have symptom management videos. So if you're the type of person where you suffer from fatigue, there's fatigue management videos in there, heat intolerance, cognition, sensation. We have research updates. So any new disease modifying therapy or other type of therapy that's released, I'll do my research on it and share it with you. We have monthly guest speakers live that you can join us with and ask your own questions to our speaker. They're often MS neurologists, MS speech and language pathologists. We've had some on memory and cognition, nutrition, occupational therapy, just so many different experts so that you not only get physical therapy exercise, but all these other experts, and you can ask your questions to them as well. Lastly, accountability through our accountability group, as well as group check-ins and constant Q&As are available. So my clients, I feel so fortunate. I always get a little choked up when I get to this slide, because I hear so often from my clients that doing these exercises help them feel more energized and stronger and empowered and confident and more like their normal self again. And my favorite one is more in control. As you know, MS can make you feel like you don't have control anymore. There's so many things that you cannot control, yet having a program that you're confident in and you start noticing these improvements just within a few days is so powerful, and it gives you that feeling to keep going and to stay consistent. So I just wanted to share 2 testimonials with you. The first one, this might sound crazy, but I feel like I'm seeing improvements already, even on my second day doing my missing link exercises. She had signed up 3 days ago. This program is the best I have seen. I'm hopeful and excited about this journey. And what I love most about this, and the reason I wanted to share it with you, is of course it's great she's seeing improvements, but she's feeling hopeful and excited. How rare is that? When you have MS, to feel hopeful and excited to continue going. I think that's so powerful. And then the second one, improvements I've noticed within my first few months as a missing link member. I can walk without a cane when the weather has no humidity. I can hold better balance. I have better self-esteem because I feel MS isn't in control as often. And I just hear so often how much people feel like they're trapped by their MS. So taking that control back is just such a great feeling. So the next question I get is always, well, how much is this? So I just wanted to be upfront and sharing you all the different options. So there's a monthly option, semi-annual, and annual. If you go to this link at the bottom, that is the link that will bring you to the website to pick whichever option you feel would be best for you. For any of them, you can cancel at any time, yet you will always have lifetime access to our accountability group. My main goal with the missing link is to help, to add value, and to help you know what exercises to do and stay consistent. So if by keeping you in our accountability group means that even though you may have canceled your membership, you still get motivated by my weekly talks that I do in there, or you still participate in our challenges to help you stay accountable, and it's helping you stay consistent, well, then I've done my job. So I will never take you out of that group. That is my way of just continuing to help in any way that I can. And lastly, I'm also adding a bonus. So you guys took an hour out of your night tonight to listen and to take notes and to talk to me. And I think it's so important that you have core strength in addition to the balance and the full body strength. So to anyone who signs up for the missing link, any of the memberships by next Friday, so that's August 6th, 2021, I'll be gifting you complimentary lifetime access to my Total Core program. So then you'll have the full program, the full bundle of what you need to see improvements. It's the MS specific strengthening, balance, walking, and the Total Core program. So these are my different avenues where you can reach me: my email, my website, my Instagram, my YouTube. So you can jot this down. Also, I'll be sending you guys the recording in your email too, but this is how you can reach me. And I am open to any and all questions that you have. I went a little over. I apologize for that. I tried to do my best. Okay, so I see some questions here. I'll answer questions for about 10 minutes or so. So if you've got any, then feel free to send them over. So number one, do you recommend using weights to help with balance? You can, but you don't need to. And I always prefer to do exercises that don't require any equipment. The reason for that is because it just adds a barrier. If I were to say, yes, do balance exercises with weights, and you don't own weights, well, now you're not going to do balance exercises. And there's so many exercises you can do without weights, without resistance bands, without any type of equipment. Okay, next one. Okay to share the recording with your MS support group? Yes, absolutely. Someone else asked me if there will be a replay. Yes, I will send you guys the replay tomorrow morning, so shortly. Should we have on shoes or can we do it barefoot? That is up to you. I often suggest at first, do whatever you feel most stable in. Some people feel more stable without shoes on and other people feel more stable with shoes on. So especially at first, do whichever you feel better stability with. My knees lock a lot. What causes that? Great question. If your knees lock or buckle, that is weakness in your quad muscles, meaning the top thigh muscles, the front of your thighs. What do you do if your knee locks? Okay, so So what to do, there's a whole bunch of exercises that you can do, but what we were talking about tonight with standing and slightly bending your knees and not letting them lock, that's one standing exercise that you can do. Okay, let's see here. How do you compensate when you have a weaker side? So when you have a weaker side, you should always do exercises on both sides. So still exercise on your strong side and still go for good quality. So just because you have a weaker side doesn't mean you should only exercise that side of your body. And your quality should be the same. So that might mean that if you're doing, one of my favorite strengthening exercises is marching. So if you are doing marching and your strong side can do 30, no problem, but your weaker side can only do 5 with good quality, well then stop at 5, take a break, and then do 5 more. Then take a break and do 5 more, and just work your way up with taking breaks. And I just see someone else says, by locking, do you mean hyperextension? Yes, locking means hyperextension. Someone, are these exercises good for prevention? Yes, the stronger you are, the better balance you have now, then if your disease does progress and it attacks your strength or your balance, hopefully you might not even notice that much because you're starting off at a stronger point. It's the same concept as when someone goes in to get a knee surgery, you go to what we call as prehab. So it's rehab, it's physical therapy before you even get your knee surgery so that you can build up as much strength and coordination as possible so that afterwards you're starting off with more strength. So it works the same way. What exercises do you recommend to maintain balance while turning around? So this is actually one of the task-specific exercises in the missing link. So it's hard to explain just verbally and quickly because I want to get to a lot of other people's questions too. The best thing that you can do is practice doing that slowly. And there's a couple of different positions. You can go wider instead of just turning around in spot, but go slowly and make a bigger turn as you're arcing around. I'm told I have weak hip flexors. Can it improve? Yes, you can improve weak hip flexion. There's a bunch of strengthening exercises you can do for that. What if you are already a Missing Link member? Can we still get the Total Core program for free? Yes, I'll be gifting it to anyone who is in the Missing Link. I have foot drop. Does anything help? Yes, there's tons of exercises. There's ankle specific exercises for foot drop where you just slowly lift your toes up as high as you can and then slowly down. And it might only lift a centimeter at first, but that's one of my favorite ankle exercises. But there's also knee and hip exercises and core exercises that you can do to actually improve foot drop. So yes, there's a bunch. Do you take insurance? Great question. No, this is not covered by insurance. However, I have had a few people use their flexible spending cards for the Missing Link. And it depends on what country you live in. I actually have had a few Canadian Missing Link members that had an insurance that does cover online wellness programs. So they actually were able to submit their monthly receipt and get that reimbursed. What is a rollator? A rollator is a walker that has a seat. So there's 4 wheels, 2 in the front, 2 in back, and a seat that you can sit on. One question, what if we can't sit unsupported? If you can't sit unsupported, then the first thing that you should do is sit really great supported. And if you, so sit as best you can here. If that's too easy, well, then just try to sit an inch away. So I was demonstrating earlier all the way out here, but can you sit slightly away or slightly further away? But sitting up as best you can, not tipping one side or the other and just staying here is amazing core strength. How do I build endurance to improve standing? So endurance is a whole nother category that I just gave an hour-long presentation on endurance alone earlier this week. So endurance can be improved by standing up for as long as you can with good quality, and that might be 10 seconds or 30 seconds or 2 minutes, whatever it is for you. Stand up as long as you can for good quality, and then as soon as you start slouching or rounding your back, sit down. stop and rest, and then stand up and do it again. And the more repetitions you're able to do that for as long as you can, the more your endurance will improve over time. All right, let me see, a bunch of questions coming in. When you say marching, is that alternating legs or one leg for 10 marches? Either one, whatever works for you. What exercises do you recommend to maintain balance while turning around to go, oh, sorry, I already answered that one, to go back into the previous direction. Can drop foot make whip, sorry, this is worded interesting. Can drop foot make weak hip flexors? No, drop foot will not cause weak hip flexors. You can have both, but it's not that one causes the other. And she says, I have both, but on my right side, which used to be my dominant side. Right. So yeah, you can have both, but usually, especially when it comes to MS, one doesn't cause the other. It's possible to have just foot drop and not hip weakness, or vice versa. All right. So I'll answer this last question because I think it's a great one. I can't stand at all. Is there anything that I can do as far as exercise? Absolutely. Those seated ones that we did today are absolutely ones that you should do, because it can prep you to have the core strength that you would need if you were to stand. And even if you don't stand, they're great ones to do to help with transfers so that you don't have to be as dependent. So even if you can't stand, these exercises, especially those seated ones tonight, are going to be really great ones for you. I just saw something else. Okay. All right. I know there's still more questions coming in. I don't want to keep you guys too long. My email is always open. If you have any questions at all for me, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, my main goal of being here is to help and to add value and to give you exercises. So if I can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you again so much for taking time to watch this presentation. I hope you enjoyed the class and got a lot out of it. I hope you have a bunch of notes next to you that you can start implementing. And I will see you guys on the next class, whenever that may be. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks again.